when you came into WWE, everybody was thinking you're going to be in the main event. You're going to be a huge star in WWE. And finally, at WrestleMania 18, you are in the main event. You're the Undisputed Champion. But it maybe didn't happen exactly the way that you thought it was going to. Can you talk through being in that main event at WrestleMania 18?
Well, there was a lot of politics when I first came into WWE that I didn't really know much about. I didn't realize just how much of a backlash there would be towards me just by the fact that I existed. It was just really strange because I came from WCW, and at the time, as crazy as it sounds, the wrestling war was real between the two companies, between the rosters of the two companies. So even though in theory we had nothing to do with each other's company, there was a real problem when guys from WCW came into WWF. And I came in by myself. I came in before any of my friends did. The only other guy that was kind of there first was Big Show, and he and I weren't really friends at the time either. So you're kind of a man unto yourself, on an island onto your own. And the first night in, I did a promo saying I was the Millennium Man, and the WWF was so boring, and I was going to create excitement and make this whole crappy locker room, this entire roster realize what a real entertaining guy is. And meanwhile, the whole roster's watching, going, "Who the fuck is this guy? He's calling us boring." And I wasn't really calling them boring, but it just was part of the gimmick of what I was supposed to do. And then the next night in Milwaukee, the first night was Detroit Live. The next night was in Milwaukee at a SmackDown taping. And I was supposed to do a promo, once again, on The Undertaker. And Vince Russo said, go stiff on him like you did last night. So same thing, like I was exciting and everyone else was boring. So I said, I had this idea where I would call The Undertaker boring, and he's just, he's not the dead man, he's the boring man, whatever the hell it was. Problem is, I interrupt Undertaker after he literally had just done this 10-minute promo about driving through the desert and picking up the Big Show and feeding him a scorpion. That was literally the most boring fucking promo of all time. I didn't know this. I just went and said, "You're boring." And the people were almost like starting to cheer, and Undertaker was just like, and I remember Shawn Michaels afterwards, I see him, and he's like, you might not want to tell the biggest name in the company that he's boring. I was like, uh-oh, big trouble. So right off the bat, huge heat for Chris Jericho. So it kind of did, there was a thumb on top of me when I first got in there. And so the first, like I said, a couple WrestleManias were so-so. And then finally, we do the tournament for the Undisputed Championship. Well, first, let me rewind that. We did a match in San Jose, which was Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho versus Triple H and Steve Austin for the WWF Tag Team titles. And we beat them in what was voted by, I think at one point in time, the greatest match in Raw history. And if you ever go back and watch it, it is one of the most exciting matches. The crowd is going ballistic. And the two kind of up-and-coming guys beat the two big names, but that was the night that Hunter tore his quad. And he was out for, I don't even remember how long it was, 8 months, 10 months. So when we had the Undisputed Championship title tournament, had Hunter not been hurt, I don't think I ever would have been in it, never mind win. And that day, no one really knew for sure who was going to win. It was Rock, Austin, Jericho, and Kurt Angle. Now, no one knew for sure who was going to win, but we used to call Kurt Canary Kurt, because if he heard anything, he would just tell you. And so Pat Patterson kind of told me on the sly, "Have you talked to Vince yet?" This is a couple weeks before the tournament. I said, "No." He said, "Well, he will. He'll talk to you when he's ready." And I was like, "Okay." And then I have a match against Steve Austin that I lose, and I asked Paul Heyman, "Should I be losing this close to the tournament match?" And Paul said, "Just do it. Trust me." And I was like, "Huh, okay." And then I see Kurt, and Kurt goes, "Well, I'm going over in the tournament. I'm winning. They told me I'm winning." And I was like, "Okay, well, Canary Kurt just blurting out these secrets again." And I was like, "Well, Kurt says he's winning." And Pat and Paul Heyman kind of made this kind of secret cryptic clue that I was going to win. And so I finally found out that I was winning the Undisputed Championship in San Diego about 3 hours before the show. And how I found out was I was in catering, eating lunch, whatever, And this is when Vince used to eat in catering as well with the commoners. And he walks in, and I'm sitting at this table, and he's standing like maybe here, where he talks a little bit louder so he knows that I can hear him. And he's with Undertaker, and he goes, Taker, you know how you know the business is going down the toilet? How, Vince? We're putting the title on Jericho. And I'm like, huh? Me? And that's how I found out. And if you ever wonder, like, whenever someone wins the title, they have their wife in the front row and their family in the front row. I had nobody. And everyone's like, why didn't you have someone in the front row? Because I didn't fucking know. I found out 3 hours before. I put the title on Jericho. So I won the Undisputed Championship with the idea that Triple H would come back and we would have this big, confrontation, and finally Triple H as a babyface now would be the new champion. Well, the problem was the build-up for the match wasn't very good. I had come up with an idea when Triple H came back that he finds out that I had been having an affair with Stephanie because she was with me, and he was like, I would never fall for that. You know I'm not really banging your wife, right? Not really falling for anything. But so then the idea came that she would kind of be the overbearing, kind of girlfriend-esque, where I'd be like the pussy whipped guy who just does whatever she says. But the difference was I wasn't banging her. So why would I be like a cuck to her telling me what to do when I'm not even having sex with her? But they had this stupid angle where I had to walk her dog, and I tie her dog to the handle of a car, and then the car drives away and kills the dog, you can't make this stuff up. It's true. The dog shits all over the floor. I literally remember the WWE prop team making like poop designed brownies that they were laying in my dressing room because the dog pooped in my dressing room. Like, this is the Undisputed Champion here. And they're making, poop delectables to put on the floor of this dressing room. This is how they're building up the main event of WrestleMania. So anyways, we finally get to the match, and, I just remember, like, this hasn't been built up properly, but there is heat there. In the last couple weeks, right before the match, I did get some serious heat on Triple H. I think I hit him in the leg with his sledgehammer and all this sort of thing. I remember one time we were rehearsing it, of me hitting Triple H with a sledgehammer. And Vince would want you to rehearse as if it's real. Well, you can't rehearse if you're really doing it because there's no crowd. The crowd is where you get the vibe and the adrenaline, and the whole kind of energy comes from that. And plus, you're in character when you're in front of the camera. When you're not in front of the camera, you're just hanging out, and you're like, you're rehearsing. And Vince would be like, do it harder. And I was like, okay, I'm not in the moment yet. And I remember he goes, oh, you don't want to do it? And this is what he said, and females, please cover your ears if you're easily offended. He goes, what are you, on the rag or something? I remember thinking, you big-eared, big-nosed motherfucker. I'm going to punch you right in your stupid face right now. Knock that toupee right off his head. So anyways, we finally built it up, and we had the match. Now, here was the biggest problem. That match, people say it was the main event of WrestleMania. And it was technically the main event if you consider the main event to be the last match on the show. Okay, that's one way of looking at the main event, right? Here's another way of looking at the main event. What's the biggest match on the show that everybody is excited for and paying to see? Okay, there's another. So would you rather be in the main event that's last, or be in the main event that's the match that everybody is looking forward to and pumped up and energetic and ready to see? Which one would you take? Option 1, last. Option 2, the most influenced and energetic and excited match. Which would you take, 1 or 2? 1? 2? If I say 1, you cheer for it. 1? 2? That's what I thought. Where were you guys in Toronto in 2001 or 2, whatever the fuck it was? So I said, because the match was Rock versus Hogan. That was the match that was taking place at the time. Which, if you watch that match with sound on, it's pretty rotten. Sound off, sorry. If you watch that match with sound off, it's pretty rotten. If you watch the match with sound on and hear the crowd, it's one of the greatest matches of all time. And isn't that what it's all about, is the crowd reactions, right? So I said, we can't go on after Rock and Hogan. We can't. You can't follow Rock and Hogan. And Triple H was adamant that the headlining the championship match should go on last. And that's what we did. And by then, we were dead in the water. Because everyone was so excited about Rock and Hogan that people went crazy. They went nuts. And then we came on after that, and the energy just wasn't there. So once again, I'm not sure if I've ever watched that match back. I'm 3 for 3 for not watching my WrestleMania matches back. But I just walked out of it like, once again, it was technically the main event. It looks good on paper. It looks good on the card when you see World Wrestling Federation Championship, Triple H versus Chris Jericho. But it really wasn't what I was hoping for and what I wanted it to be. And then I get the paycheck for it. Now you're thinking, oh, well, he must have been happy with that. I wasn't. Let me tell you the reason why. I had always heard that if you were in the main event of WrestleMania, you're making 7 figures. Easy. Like, no doubt about it. No doubt about it whatsoever. When I got the check, it was considerably less than that. Now, I don't want to say what it was because it was still a shitload of money, but it wasn't the WrestleMania payoff that I had always heard about. So then I happened to ask Triple H, and we're friends now, but we were not friends at the time. There was always a lot of animosity between us. And I asked him, what did you get for WrestleMania? Now, I'm not going to mention numbers because it sounds really obnoxious if you're complaining about a number, but if the WrestleMania payoff was a pie, Triple H got 4 pieces of the pie, and I got 1 piece of the pie. So he got 80% of the payoff that was delegated by Vince. I got 20, and I blew my fucking stack. I was like, listen, okay, I get it. But dude, 80 to 20? And so I talked to Jim Ross, and Jim was the guy that you would go to if you were angry about a payoff. And guys would go and be angry about a payoff, and Jim would give them $5,000 extra. And I'd be like, you know they're just going to take it off your next pay-per-view check. Here's, okay, you don't want 20? Here's 25. Next time, if it's supposed to be 20, you get 15. But this was different. This was not a matter of $5,000. This was a matter of, if you don't make this right, I'll walk the fuck out. Because it was so insulting to me. And I explained my case to Jim, and he said, well, Vince pays on what the people paid to see, and he feels the people paid to see Triple H win the world title. And I said, he's been back for 3 weeks. The 3 months prior, I was the one who was doing the work to lay the foundation so that when Triple H came back, people would want to see him win. That's how it works. So I told Jim. Jim went and told Vince. And to Vince's credit, with no argument, he sent me another check, which brought me up to 1.5 pieces of the pie. A lot of balls. So he said, you got a lot of balls to do that. But he said, hey, let me ask you a question. What are those male dancers like? And he goes, are they kind of like cream puffy? I'm like, well, no, they actually pick up a lot of girls because, it's very sensual. He's like, oh, I don't believe that. So, I hate those male ballroom dancers.